At the head of the holler, where my mother was raised, there stands a house that did not have a single wire run to it until I was a boy. No fans, no air conditioning, no electric anything. And I can tell you from memory, in the meanest July heat, when the valley below shimmered like a stovetop, that house stayed cool enough to sleep sound in and sit down to a Sunday dinner in. Meanwhile, folks today watch their power bill double every summer for a comfort my grandmother got for free. That was no accident, and it was no miracle either. That house was a machine. A machine made of wood, stone, shade, and habit. And my grandmother ran it every day of her life, like the operator she was. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through that machine, piece by piece, because nearly every part of it still works today, wires or no wires. And the windows. The windows had a secret all their own, one that is sitting right now, forgotten and painted shut, in half the old houses in this country. I'm saving that one for the end, because once you see it, you will never look at a window the same way again. I'm Harlan. I was raised on this ridge, and electricity got to the head of our holler later than it got to most of America. The power company said the wire cost more than the houses were worth. So the old ways held on up here a full generation longer than they did in town, and I was lucky enough to grow up watching them work. Here's what I saw. Start with the outside before you ever touch the house. The first thing you'd notice about the old home place was that you could barely see it in summer. 2 big oaks stood on the south side and a maple on the west, and from June to September, that house lived in shade. That was not decoration. That was the first wall of the machine. Sun that never touches your walls and your roof is heat you never have to fight. And here's the clever part folks miss. They planted trees that dropped their leaves. Come winter, the leaves fell, the sun came through bare branches, and the same house that hid from the sun in July drank it up in January. One planting, working both seasons. If you own a house today with a bare south or west side, the cheapest air conditioning you will ever buy is a shade tree, and the second cheapest is anything, an awning, a lattice, a porch roof, that stops sun before it reaches the glass. Because a curtain closed on the inside is already too late. The heat came through the window and it's in the house with you, trapped like a wasp. Stop it outside, and it never gets in at all. Then came the porch. Not the little concrete stoop houses get now. A porch 8 feet deep, running the whole front of the house. Now a porch is for sitting, no argument there. But a deep porch is a piece of cooling equipment too. It throws a band of shade over the front wall and the front windows all day long, so that whole side of the house never takes direct sun. The wall stays cool, the windows stay cool, and of an evening, the porch itself is the coolest room you own, because it's got shade above and open air on 3 sides. Our people didn't sit on porches because they were quaint. They sat there because it was the best seat in the county. Now step inside, and the second thing you'd notice. In the middle of the day, in the middle of summer, that house was shut up tight and dark as a root cellar. And this is the part of the machine most folks today run exactly backwards. The feel of a hot day says, open the windows, get some air moving. But from mid-morning to sundown, the air outside is hotter than the air inside your house. Open up at noon, and you are not letting a breeze in. You are letting July in. My grandmother sealed that house up by 9 in the morning, like she was canning it. Windows down, doors shut, and the house held its cool the way a jug of well water holds cold
under a shade tree all day while it was 95 in the yard. That thick, still, shaded house gave up its coolness slow, a degree at a time, and by supper it was still holding. And she didn't just close the house, she moved the family down. Heat rises, and it does not take a vote. The upstairs rooms of that house were shut off by 10 in the morning, doors closed so their heat stayed put, and everybody lived on the ground floor, in the darkest room on the north side. Below that was the cellar, and on the worst afternoons, that's where the resting got done.
Cool as a cave down there every single day of the year, because 6 feet of earth does not care what the thermometer says. If your house has a basement today, July is what it's for. But holding the cool in is only half the machine. The other half is not making heat inside in the first place. And on that score, the old folks were more serious than you can imagine. Serious enough to build a whole second building. It was called the summer kitchen, and plenty of old farms up here had one. A little house out back, 10 steps from the main house, with a stove and a work table and nothing else. Come hot weather, all the cooking moved out there. Every fire, every pot of beans, every batch of biscuits, all of that heat got made in a building the family did not live in. The main house never felt a lick of it. Now think about what we do instead. We take a metal box, heat it to 350 degrees, and run it for an hour in the very room where we're going to eat. Then we run a machine that tumbles clothes in hot air, and a dishwasher that boils, and we wonder why the kitchen won't cool down till midnight. You likely can't build a summer kitchen, but you can obey its law. In a heat wave, the law says the stove works at dawn or it doesn't work. Cook early, cook big, eat it cold at supper. Grill outside if you've got one, that's a summer kitchen on wheels. And run the dryer and the dishwasher after dark or not at all. Every degree you don't make is a degree you don't have to lose. Even the light obeyed. People forget that before electric bulbs, light meant fire. An oil lamp is a little stove that happens to glow, and on a July night, my grandmother did not light one lamp more than the room needed. Supper was eaten by daylight. Sitting was done on the porch in the dusk, and the house stayed dim and cool. Our lights today run cooler, thank goodness, but the lesson holds for everything with a plug. The television nobody's watching, the computer left running. Every one of them is a little heater with a day job. What isn't working for you is working against you. Turn it off. Then there was the water, and this is the part I give a good deal to show you in person. Down the slope behind the house, where a spring came cold out of the hill, stood a little stone building called the springhouse. The spring water ran right through a trough in the floor, and in that trough sat the crocks. Butter, milk, buttermilk, a watermelon on a Saturday. That water came out of the mountain cold enough to ache your hand, summer and winter alike, and it kept food cold with no ice and no machine, just the mountain doing what mountains do. I used to be sent down for the butter, and I will tell you, stepping into that springhouse on a 90-degree day was like stepping into another season. The old folks used cold water on themselves the same way. A basin of cool well water for the feet after haying. Wrists held under the spring pipe. A wet rag on the back of the neck for a man working the field. No mystery to it. Water carries heat away from a body faster than air ever will, and it's the oldest relief there is. If you're finding some worth in the old ways, do me one kindness and tap that subscribe button. Costs you nothing, and it tells me to keep handing these down, because I've got a deep well of them. Now, the night. Because holding out through the day is one thing, but a body has to sleep, and the old folks had a whole system for it. First, they slept low.
The same rule that shut the upstairs at 10 in the morning put pallets on the ground floor at 10 at night. Quilts folded on the floor of the front room, young ones lined up like cordwood, because the coolest sleeping in the house was always the lowest. Second, they slept in moving air. The minute the outside air turned cooler than the house, and up here that's an hour or so after sundown, that sealed jar of a house got opened wide. Windows up on the cool side of the house, windows up on the far side, doors propped, and the night breeze pulled straight through. Some houses up here were even built for it. 2 cabins under one roof with an open hallway between them, a dogtrot, they called it, and that open middle was the breeziest sleeping spot on the property. Folks moved their beds right into it come July. And third, on the stillest, meanest nights, my grandmother would wring a sheet out in cool water and hang it in the open window.
Air coming through wet cloth gives up some of its heat as the water dries, and what reached your bed was softer than what left the yard. I'll be square with you on that one, though. Our mountain air in July can hang thick as wet wool, and that trick shines brightest on the drier nights. On a muggy night, the pallet and the cross breeze will do more for you than the wet sheet will. And that's a good place to say the honest piece plain, because I won't sell you moonshine and call it medicine. Everything I've shown you, the shade, the sealed house, the cold suppers, the night air, all of it together buys you a house that's a good few degrees kinder than the yard, and a night you can actually sleep through. It does not buy you a magazine cover in an ice storm. It is not a machine that makes cold. It is a way of never inviting the heat in, and of shedding it the minute the mountain lets you. That was enough for our people for 200 years, and in an ordinary heat wave, it is still plenty. But real heat is nothing to be proud around. When it turns dangerous, drink your water before you're thirsty. Quit the hard work in the middle of the day, and look in on the old folks who live by themselves. Up these hollers we always did watch out for one another. That habit cools nothing, and it's still worth more than all the rest put together. Which brings me, at last, to the window. The secret I promised you, and it's been hiding in plain sight this whole time. Look at an old double-hung window, the kind with 2 sashes, one above and one below. Nearly everybody alive opens the bottom one and calls it done. But that top sash was built to open too. And when you slide the top sash down a few inches and raise the bottom sash a few inches, that one window becomes its own chimney. The hottest air in the room, the air pooled up against your ceiling, slides out over the top. Cooler outside air feeds in through the bottom. One window, both directions, all night long. No power, no parts. Do it on 2 sides of the house. Low sash open on the side that stayed in shade all day. Top sash dropped on the side the evening sun cooked last, and the whole house breathes like a set of lungs. Now here's the sorry part. Go check your old windows, and odds are good somebody painted that top sash shut 30 years ago, and nobody ever knew what they lost. An evening with a putty knife will set it free. My grandmother's windows all worked, top and bottom, her whole life. She'd no more have painted one shut than she'd have nailed her front door closed. So there's the machine, the whole of it. Shade outside so heat never touches the house. A house sealed like a jar through the heat of the day, and lived in low and dark. No fires made indoors, no heat made that didn't have to be. Cold water for the body, night air for the rooms, and windows that breathe out the top. Not one piece of it needs a wire, and not one piece of it has quit working just because we got wires. The heat didn't change.
We just quit running the machine. If your folks had their own tricks for beating July, put them in the comments below. I read every one, and I've learned plenty down there. In the next video, I'll show you the $2 jug and the pile of leaves most folks burn every fall. The two things that kept my grandmother's garden on that same hillside without a single weed for 30 years. Until then, take care of yourselves, and remember, the porch light's always on.